Welcome to Secular Soapbox. Tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with David McDonald of Deep Drinks Podcast. If you're like me, you are seeing him pop up on everyone's channel, and for good reason. His show is amazing, and so is he. But before we get started, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and consider supporting the work that we do on Patreon. Now let's start the show. Hey, how's it going?
Oh,
Nice to see you back here again.
I know.
You liked
Couldn't
it
find
so
anyone
much.
else, so that's okay. I will gladly be here.
Thank you. Well, you had so much fun last week. You decided to join us, I guess, semi-permanently, permanently.
Yeah,
Which is
whatever.
awesome. Yeah, thank you. So just to kind of let everyone know, Michael is going to be coming back as a co-host here and there. He's super busy with his show, The Bible Says What, which is fantastic. So I'm so happy that Baph is going to be my new co-host. So welcome, Baph. Yay.
Jabbing. That's right.
Well, thank you for being here and doing this with me. We had
It's
such
my
a great
pleasure. I had so much fun, so I'm very happy to be here, and this is a great opportunity to
yeah.
get to know more people. And
Yes.
everybody in the comments, what's up?
I
Hi,
know,
Ryan.
thank
Hi,
you.
Randy.
Thank you so much. I know we're going to have such a great time together. So I'm looking forward to our show. And so I think we should introduce our guest. And for those who may not be familiar with David yet, I don't know how that's possible though. If you're a fan of Myth Vision or Gnostic Informant, you will definitely have seen him there. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce everyone to David. Hi,
Hey.
David.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Just wanted to give everyone a little intro to you, a bio. So David grew up in Australia in a Christian home. In David's teen years, he got involved in a youth ministry and later went on to ministry college to become a youth pastor. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So his church background is more of the Pentecostal side of things with an emphasis on spiritual experiences like speaking in tongues and other gifts of the Spirit. David was very committed to his faith until he began noticing cracks. When those cracks continued to get bigger and it turned into what he calls a giant canyon, he began the journey of reevaluating his faith. With an interest in world religions, science, philosophy, and human rights, David now hosts the podcast on YouTube called Deep Drinks, where the deep drinks are deep and the discussions are deeper. You can find him chatting with some of our favorite people like Dr. Joshua Bowen, Derek Lambert, Dr. Kip Davis, and many more over the guest choice of drink. David's interview style is fun, but still deep, like you're hanging out with friends as you listen and learn. And it is our absolute privilege to have you on Secular Soapbox tonight. So welcome to the show, David.
Welcome.
Wow, what an intro.
I'm also fun and deep. You didn't say that about me. God.
It's like you really did your research. Thank you. And
you are so welcome.
I've never had anyone speak so kindly about me.
Really?
That's great. Yeah. That's very.
I
that's very nice
enjoyed
of you.
learning more about you because it's not just to like pour on the like, oh, you're so great. You really have a great show.
No, please pour it on. Like, tell me how great I am.
You are. You have a great
I
show, and I wanted to have you on because I've enjoyed it and I've enjoyed seeing you pop up. And like I said, you're like every time I turn on the show, it's like, oh, there's David McDonald. Oh, there's David McDonald. So
well, that's good. I'm what I'm telling my wife at the moment. I'm in grind mode, so I'm working really hard to try and I guess make this more than something than just a hobby. So to be able to do it in a more like permanent basis. So yeah, I'm going a bit nuts, to be honest. I sometimes have to I sometimes can't go to sleep because my mind is like racing at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I'm glad you're enjoying the content.
Oh, absolutely. You've had some really great people on your show. So we'll get into that a little later on because we want to hear more about it. But
you want to tell us your background and how was it growing up? If you want to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess a few, like, it depends how deep we want to go, but deep drinks, right? No.
Yeah.
But like I grew up in kind of like I grew up as a Christian as like a kid, and then I had some involvement in the church in my very early teen years when I was like 12, I think, or 13, and then I kind of moved up to Queensland with my father, and I kind of walked away from all of that. But then I got invited to a youth group when I was 16 by some girls, and I went along. And I was known as like the depressed kid at school. Like I was,
oh shit,
I would always have like my headphones in, I'd wear a hoodie. I thought I was like 8 Mile, you know what I mean? Like, and I'll listen to like D12 and Slipknot, and I'll be like, yeah, life's hard. Like I was just really that, how like you go through phases. I was in that. And I got invited to this youth group, and I had what I can only describe as a very powerful experience. And I don't know what I would call it now because I don't really believe in the spirit realm, but I would say at the time it was a spiritual experience. And it totally changed my whole world. Like it totally came. I went back to school, and within a week, some people were calling me Captain Christian. I was like preaching to people at school.
Holy
I was
crap.
reading the Bible. I was running like small groups with new Christians or people who want to know. I was bringing Bibles to give to people at school. Like I was just all about Christianity.
Whoa.
Because I really believed it was true. Like I really was convinced of the experiences that I had that I remember looking, and we can get into some of the wild Pentecostal stories, but like I remember looking at a friend of mine and he's like having a seizure, essentially, but like a spiritual seizure, I guess.
Yeah. Spiritual seizure.
And he's like, yeah. And he's like, he just got baptized, and he was like, he was like had his arms out in like an idea, like in like a cross kind of way, and he was shaking, and like he was on the ground, and he was moving his feet so much that he was digging like a hole into the ground. And we're all like laughing and praying with him, and then we like pick him up, and we like, and like he's like catatonic, like can't. Jeez. He's like in this other world, right? Like he's just on like some trip, and we bring him into another area, and we like had to skip dinner. And like everyone, like people are going to dinner, and like there's 15 of us in this room, and we're all praying for people, and I'm running around as a new Christian, pretending to paint the blood of Jesus on the walls. Like it was like you're in this state of like absolute hysteria, like and and like where some of the girls were crying, and like one of them had like a kind of like an eye, like a blind eye, and we were trying to pray for her, and I swear I saw her eyes go black, and I was like, it's happening, she's going to be healed. It was wild. So I'm seeing stuff like that happen, and I remember specifically saying to myself, I can never my watch. I remember specifically saying to myself, I can never deny what I'm seeing here. And I remember looking at my friend and going, I could never deny this. And I still don't. I don't deny it. I just don't believe it was what we thought it was at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The experience took place. It's just questionable origins of that experience. What caused it? Or definitely the hysteria that you mentioned is a state of mind that when everybody is in that state of mind, it's very hard to discern from reality, right? And
yeah, it was really bizarre. Yeah, but the thing is too that like these type of, I want to make it very clear, these, because there might be people here who are deconstructing and are like, how can you deny something like that? Well, later on I would, my a family member of mine was going to prayer meetings with like, I think it was some form of like Eastern religion, and they were praying for something that was happening in Tibet, and they had like people there from Tibet that couldn't speak English, and it was very Eastern. They, reincarnation, all that stuff. And they described, and she came home one night describing all the same things. We're all laughing and falling over, and like it was crazy, and we're all just like praying for each other and blessing, and and I was just like, whoa. I remember thinking to myself like, oh, the devil's getting sneaky. He's now replicating exactly what we're doing at church.
This freaking devil.
That's what Christians tell you, that the devil always has a counterfeit, right? For what God has. So That's what I would have believed too.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
So then you went into youth ministry, is that right?
Yeah.
Like
so like my world became like all about youth ministry, all about like church, like that's just all I cared about. And within 3 years, I went from like I was 16, and then when I was 19, or when I was 18, I was going through Bible ministry college. So I left school early, and I went through ministry college, and it was the only year that our church ran it locally at their church, but it was through a church called City Point Ministry. And it's funny, now I've been interviewed by SBS Australia in the newspaper to speaking out against their anti-LGBT, that same church's LGBT issues. So that's another random aside, and I apologize, but it was funny. Like I have my certificate for in Christian ministries, which isn't a huge credential or anything, but it's signed by the very guy that I'm being interviewed about, kind of calling out for his bullshit. Now, and I didn't realize I was getting interviewed, and then I was like, that's the same guy, and I was like, that's so whack. Anyway, yeah, so it was, I went through ministry college, and the youth pastor, when I was going through ministry college, the youth pastor was like, I'm feeling called by God to go start senior pastor at church down in the Central Coast. And he had a bunch of things line up, like words of God line up for him to do that. And he went down and did that. And as a result, the senior pastor employed me, but I was given to the care of the associate pastor, who's now the senior pastor. And that associate pastor immediately from the start said, I don't think you should be the youth pastor. You're too young. I was 19, and I was like, the church was about 250 people, and the youth ministry, like 200 people on a Sunday, but the youth ministry was like 100 youth on a Friday night. So like I was given responsibility for a huge chunk. And to be honest, like I was probably too young, but I also didn't care because I believed that I was called by God. I believed in the will of God. I believed that God had given me a vision for the youth ministry. And so I started working for the church, and that was short-lived. I was essentially weaseled out of that position after a while, and that got me to spiral into a kind of a depressive state. And then there's another section of my life. It's so funny. I have to say, my little brother one time did the most offensive thing that I've ever seen him do, but it was so funny. It was so offensive that it was funny. He just randomly messages me this list of like sagas. And so he just categorized my life into different sagas. Like there was the angry, the depressed teenager, the zealot, and like he just without any context just sends it to me. And I was just like, fuck, it's so accurate.
Rude.
And so he just labeled all my sagas.
Oh my God. I have a quick question. By any chance, were you at a, I guess, low point in your life when you first joined Christianity? Do you feel like the religion preyed on you being on that low point?
Yeah, 100%.
Vulnerability, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I remember one of the things, I've never mentioned this, but I had a girlfriend prior to that, and we had a really bad breakup. It was like, your first teenage breakup. But we were like, something about me is I'm always tend to be extreme, and we were kind of extreme in our relationship in that when we broke up, it was like a spectacle. Like the school was like, oh my God, they're finally broken up, like, because we just fight all the time. But I really hated her. Like I really had some deep
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, I had some really deep like feelings about that, and I was very vocal about that to people. So everyone was like, "What the like this dude is nuts." So I was depressed. I hated my ex-girlfriend, and all this stuff. When I came to youth group after that experience, I remember someone mentioned her name. I think it would have been in the next day or so, and I remember thinking like, "Oh, that's stupid." And then wait, I don't hate her anymore. And I was like, I don't hate her at all. Like, and it all just left. All that hatred left.
Wow.
And so that's why I think a lot of people saw this huge change in me. But definitely I was in this spot. And when I had this experience, I should just mention that it wasn't an experience where like I went to the front. I didn't want to go to the front. And I remember sitting there arguing with God because remember, I kind of grew up as a Christian. So I was kind of arguing with God, and I was saying like, I don't want to be a Christian yet. I don't want to let me just put my phone on silent. I keep getting notifications about this, people liking the stream.
Oh, good. Yay.
Yeah. I kept what was I saying again? Sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Prayer. No.
I was in the youth ministry, and I was arguing with God. Sorry, I was sitting in the back, I was arguing with God, and I was like, I don't want to like, I'll get my life together with you when I'm 40 or whatever. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to do this yet. And then someone asked me, do I want to go up the front and pray? I said no. And the girls that invited me, they were at the front. They were leaders in the youth group, and they were praying with a group of people. And then they must have felt the instructions from God to come and pray for me in the back. So they did. They came and prayed for me. And I was kind of had my heads in my hands like this, and then they put their hands on my back, and I just felt all these hands, and they're just started praying for me, and then they started prophesying. So there were people I didn't know, teenagers my age, saying, I know that you feel XYZ, but God wants you to know ABC. Like it was like, I know you feel depressed, I know you feel alone, but God wants to know that he loves you, he cares for you, blah, blah, blah. And next thing I know, I am looking down at like a puddle of tears. Like I'm just, the floor underneath me was soaked. And I realized that like, I did want this. And then I kind of gave into it. Yeah.
Emotional manipulation, it works. It works for them, and they accept it as just the part of the reality of how they're supposed to interact with other people. And unfortunately, it's just an endless cycle. That's just what it is.
It really is.
Looking back, do you ever think about how like prophecy, like you can say anything to anyone, like everyone's going through a hard time. A prophecy can fit all situations. Everyone's feeling depressed at some point. So right, like
definitely. Sorry, go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I even took like a prophecy course once at my my church. Oh yeah.
Did you see it coming though?
I didn't, but they told you like you were to pull out the gold in people, so you were supposed to just tell them good things. And
oh really?
Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Which is not very biblical, to be honest, because like the like, as if you're reading the Bible, like I think my youth pastor even said this at the time. It's like prophecy is supposed to be like, usually it's a rebuke. Usually it's like the judgment is coming, or this will happen if you don't do X, like in the Bible. Like it's not normally like, I know that your marriage was sad, but God's got like, a new love for you in your life. Like it never, you don't really see that in the Bible.
Okay.
No, this was like a Bethel prophecy.
Oh God. So, I remember. Oh, dude, I remember. I know. So you know how you can like prime yourself. I remember talking to a friend about Bethel, and we're talking about like, in Bethel. So you went to Bethel? You went through Bethel?
No, I'm in Canada, but it was a course that was put on by Chris Valentin from Bethel. We just watched the videos. I know.
God, that there was this group of people in our church who I called the Bethelers, right? Because they rejected Hillsong, like all of the other bands and stuff, and our church wasn't holy enough, and they were the ones running around with a bottle of canola oil, anointing people's heads and dancing.
Canola oil, wow,
or some form of oil. I don't know. It wasn't good for anyone's acne or anything. They're just like, So they're the ones that were like way more crazy. And like, during conferences that we would have at our church, they would be like, they were like rolling their eyes and like in the cafe because it's not holy enough. Like it's a prepared preach. And they were talking like, we went to a Bethel conference and it was like, it started with 3 hours of worship. And I'm like, like, God, like that sounds horrible. Like, like I worship before you get, like, I can worship in the car, like on a long drive, So, it was
like before you go to the club, you can like pre-drink. So
that's it.
Before you go to church, you can pre-worship.
Pre-game. Oh god.
Pre-worship. That brought back a random memory. I remember going to a church service with my wife, and I had like an Eminem CD in my car, and I took it out and I put on some Christian like album, and she goes, "Oh, you're changing music?" And I said, "Yeah, well, you gotta like, it's not good to listen to Eminem when you're on the way to church. You gotta listen to something." And she's like, "That's interesting." And I was like, "No, it gets you in the zone. Like that's."
It felt very like sacrilegious to listen to secular music on like Sunday mornings for sure.
Yeah, I remember I didn't listen to secular music for the longest time. Like I wouldn't. I snapped all my snapped all my CDs.
Oh, yeah.
Like I threw them all out. Like, yeah.
Oh,
That's
man.
a very Pentecostal thing to do. Very Pentecostal. I remember joining a youth group, and like I was 14, and it was a very charismatic youth group. And like when I joined, they were like, "Do you listen to secular music?" And I was like, "What is secular music?" And they're like, "Well, it was like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I do." And they're like, "Well, you need to break all your CDs." And I was like, "I do." And it was like that was a big ritual that they had me do, was like break my CDs. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but now I hear other people talking about that. I'm like, that must have been like a coming of age thing for people in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so I remember the like I bought. Have you guys played video games? Do you guys ever play video games or anything like that?
Well, like Super Mario.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong is
I'm
my
a Super
shit.
Nintendo. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, nice. So there's this so yeah, you guys aren't the audience then, but maybe there's someone in your audience that might like it. But
My
I used
kids
to play
Minecraft, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, I love
Yeah,
Minecraft.
okay.
Yeah.
Minesweeper. How about Minesweeper?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Windows 95.
Yeah.
I just wanted to also shout out some. There's a few people from my Patreon in the chat. So Skeptic Scoundrels, hello.
Yes,
What's up?
And
yes.
and Aaron Coalson, he's the Pope of Deep Drinks podcast. He's the highest tier, and each episode is it ends with his image in like
my
a card.
goodness.
What's up, Aaron?
Well,
Aaron,
hello.
He says drinking
awesome.
before church would have made it more interesting. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, so I remember getting this game home once, and it was Oblivion, right? I loved Oblivion. It was like an Elder Scrolls game, Skyrim, if you know that. It's like the one before Skyrim. It's like, magic and running around and stuff. Anyway, I bought an expansion pack for it. It was $50. I came home, and the lady at my work that I used to talk to about Christian stuff all the time, she said, she told me it was wrong. And she said, "Do you know that friendship with the world means you're enemies to God?" Little did I know at the time, she was spending all her money on the pokey machines, like gambling. So like, I don't know where she got off telling me about that. So I went home and I snapped my new game. That was like $50.
No.
My God.
And threw it in the bin. Yeah. Rough, right?
Yeah. I think I know I've definitely done stuff like that in my Christian life where I've gotten rid of things, and looking back, I'm like, why did I do that? Or I remember one time giving a huge amount of money in this Vision Sunday where they wanted, for weeks, they were preaching about it, and they wanted everyone to pray about a number. And I won't even tell you the amount that it was, because I think back on that amount and I'm like, if I could have that money back. Oh, yeah. Whoa. So manipulation. Anyways, go on.
Oh, my bad. For those who are not very familiar, because I am not the best at knowing the differences between the different types of Christianity. I know that Pentecostals are the ones who speak in tongues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else characteristic of Pentecostals?
Yeah. So it's there's 45,000 denominations of Christianity. So
perfect.
And
they're all right. They're all correct.
Yeah, they're all right. Yeah. Everyone else is wrong, but they're so there are different like sects of, I guess, Pentecostalism. There are the snake handlers that you guys have over in the US. Because there's this verse in John that was, by the way, wasn't in the original Greek, but is in the is in later manuscripts, but it wasn't in the original. It says that you will pick up snakes and drink deadly poison and it will not hurt you, like disciples of Jesus. But it's interesting because I guess they take it literally, like you will, like you better go do that. You better go pick up deadly snakes. So they do, and then they get bitten, and then they die. Like it's sad but funny. Like what the anyway. So there's those type of that's an extreme form of Pentecostalism, I guess. And then there's like the prosperity preachers as well who believe that. But I guess my church was probably right in the realm of it was probably as normal as a Pentecostal church would be. No one would be speaking in tongues from through the microphone on a random Sunday. It was usually like very milquetoast, very like 12 steps to getting closer with God preachers, like those kind of things, or like live your best life, like that kind of stuff. But then they would have like small groups, and they would have prayer meetings, and the prayer meetings would be a lot of speaking in tongues and laying on of hands and all that kind of stuff. Or the smaller kind of groups who would do that, and it was more they were the groups that I was more attracted to. I didn't care about like I believe, like I said, I believed it was true. So I if you can have an experience with the creator of the universe and you're opting to like stay home or go to the movies, I was like, I couldn't understand people who weren't as extreme as I was. Like it was I still am a bit confused by it. Like a lot of people say like, you know, I believe with all my heart that Jesus lived and died for my sins or whatever, and you'll be, these people will be going to hell if they don't get saved. Like, what are you doing then? Like if you really believe that, like, how can you spend anything but your entire life trying to convert as many people as possible? Like,
right.
Yeah, it kind of paints that person to be disgusting, like a disgusting, immoral, abhorrent person. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Well, like, sorry to monologue, and this is the sickle soapbox. So let me stand on.
You're on your soapbox. Go for it.
But like the more I think about hell, the idea of like eternal judgment, the more I kind of realize like I don't know if it's possible. Like it's impossible, I guess, for a human mind to understand infinity. But let's say we could. I don't think it's possible for anyone to truly understand infinity and worship a creator that could even allow a cockroach to spend an existence there. Even a cockroach.
Yeah.
Think about grabbing a cockroach, a disgusting little creature. Let's say a mouse, actually. Let's say a mouse because it's not so disgusting.
It's cute.
And someone just grabs like a needle and he's like sticking a needle through its and it's squirming in pain, it's screeching, or drowning it, like holding underwater and stuff. That feels horrible. That's a 30-second event, right? Now imagine that way worse for eternity. And imagine and that's not a mouse. It's like living, breathing people who
that
just happen to be in the wrong place.
Children.
Yeah. And it's like, can you really
people with nerve endings apparently?
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Wow.
So we have an eternal torment for a finite crime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to deconstruct hell? Like, was it a hard thing for you to deconstruct, or how did you?
I guess. No, I don't think I guess I did deconstruct hell, but it wasn't like a big thing for me. I think that quote by Marcus Aurelius is really fantastic.
I wonder, because I have a quote that helped me big time, and I wonder which. I'll share mine after you share your quote.
Yeah, okay, here we go. I found that so quickly. You should have seen how I spelled Marcus Aurelius. Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on your virtues you have lived by. If there are gods but unjust, then you should not want to worship them. If there are no gods, then you should then you will be gone, but you will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones.
Oh, I like that.
That is nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
not the quote that helped me.
What's the quote that helped you?
Well, the quote for me that I share, and I needed to hear it without realizing I needed to hear it. But my husband told me about it because I was like wanting to deconstruct, but not realizing that's what I was doing. And I was like, but I'm so afraid of hell. I'm so afraid that when I die, I'm going to go to hell if I question any of this. And he saw a quote on Twitter. And so he said, life is a spark between two identical voids, the one before birth and the one after death. And it just made me realize that there is a whole eternity before I was born. And I have no recollection of that whatsoever. So there's a really good chance there's an entire eternity after that I'm going to have no recollection of. And it was like that fear just completely evaporated for me. And I was like, thank you. He's like, oh, you're welcome. Because he didn't have that fear. And I kept that quote on my phone as my home screen for couple months. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So do you mind if I randomly ask you a question? So did you deconstruct with your husband, or is your husband still Christian, or?
He was a very supportive husband who supported me in my Christian faith and tried really hard to get where I was, but could never do it. And so when I deconverted, he said, "I don't think you're wrong. Just take it slow." But he was right there with me. So
that's so funny. Like, that's so. I used to get really concerned that my wife wasn't Christian enough. So I was concerned that she didn't speak in tongues and she wasn't baptized in the Spirit and all that stuff. Like I used to really worry about that because I was like, the Bible says you got to be baptized with the Spirit, and like it freaked me out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was very concerned too. So I get it, and he was very supportive, and we went to church and we became members at churches, and he wanted to hopefully get there, but just his rational brain was like, this just doesn't add up. This just doesn't make sense. But if there is a God, please, like, help me believe. But he just didn't. So.
Oh, well, your husband sounds like a great guy.
He is. I brag about him on every chance I get. But anyways, this is so I want to know also, what were some of the early cracks for you that you talked about?
Yeah.
You can take a drink. Take a drink.
Yeah, it's vodka.
It's pure vodka.
At 11 a.m.
The deep drink.
The Bill Nye versus Ken Ham debate. When I watched that, and to be honest, I think when I watched that, I thought that Ken Ham was making some good points. Like, I was like, okay, they're both pretty equal here. Now that I look back at it, I'm like, he didn't make a point. Like, there's no point that he didn't make one point. He just was kind of like, Christians can be scientists too, and there is an agenda, and that was his whole argument. Okay. And also evolution's wrong, therefore creationism's right. But there was that one question at the end, which has become a staple on the end of my episodes on Deep Drinks, which is when someone in the audience asked a question, they asked, what, if anything, would change your mind? And I remember kind of like half watching, but my ears perked up at that part because I always love to view things to see how honest someone's being. Yeah. Bill Nye, evidence. I just need to see evidence. Anything. Show me a fish that swam from one layer of rock to another layer of rock. That shows that the strata, geological strata, was wrong. Mm-hmm. Geological column was wrong. I wouldn't believe it anymore. Show me how we can get fossils that fossilize in this amount of time. Show me how we can get all that. And I was just like, wow, great answer, right? Yeah. Ken Ham chokes back. You can see that he's nervous about saying this, and he says, well, I am a Christian, and I admit that's where I start from, so nothing will change my mind. Ooh. And I was just like, whoa. And I was just like, hang on a sec. And I remember thinking, like, that's not honest. And I remember thinking, like, you really screwed up. Like, that was a really bad answer. Mm-hmm. And then that got me to reflect on my, like, am I going to follow the evidence where it leads? Wow. Or am I going to protect my faith and try and find reasons why my faith is true? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. There's the whole field of apologetics. And, like, I have to say, I love Michael Jones. He's a great friend of mine. Inspiring philosophy. We get on really well. We argue about stuff. We joke about stuff. We send each other like funny messages. It's like, we're cool. One of the first time I remember shortly after that, I remember just waking up one morning at a friend's house, and I had all this panic about, like, I stayed the night there, and I had all this panic about, like, is the Earth millions of years old, or is it 4,000 years old? Like, it sounds a bit psychotic, but for some reason I was just thinking about it that morning. And I remember finding one of Michael's videos, inspiring philosophy videos, and he talks about how you can interpret Genesis 1 to be poetic, and you can find a way to, like, and he showed, like, read books, and he showed this stuff, and it was like, you can find a way to read Genesis as poetic and still accept evolution and still have your Christian faith. And I was like, oh, great. It got rid of all my cognitive dissonance. I felt great and everything. And that's what I kind of like about Michael personally, is I think that he's just like, hey, if you want to be a Christian, this is where the evidence, this is how you can do it. Like, and I was like, cool. So if I got Christians who don't want to be, who want to like investigate things, like, go look at Michael's stuff. Great. But the whole field of apologetics, in my opinion, including Michael, is that it's like, we don't know, like, we want to protect the faith, so let's go looking for evidence that fits our conclusion.
Yes.
And there's to me, that's a faulty starting position. Like, no one, I don't know any, I'm sure there's someone's going to tell me one day to point out someone, but I don't know any person who's like, you know what, I was a atheist, I just love my sin, and then and then I looked at the arguments rationally, and I thought, you know what, not only is God real, but the Christian God is definitely real. They always have they're either brought up in church, they had or in a culture around Christianity, they were on drugs and they're now off drugs because of an experience with Jesus or something like that. Yep. And then they go looking for the evidence to justify their faith after the fact. So
yeah, it's very like they're emotionally attached, or it's scary to think about leaving it because they've been committed to it for so long. I think you have to be kind of either brave to really look at it. And like, for me, it was the fear of hell that kept me in it for as long as I did, even though I had those questions come up. So
sounds like fear is a common theme here.
For me, it was. Yeah. It definitely was. But it's exciting. Because really,
if there was no hell, there would be no need for salvation, no need for atonement, no need for Jesus, no need to confess your sins, to be forgiven to begin with. So really, hell is the one thing that keeps the believers believing, I think, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. For me personally. Yeah. What about for you?
It's also community. I think community is like a big part. Yeah, I think that I find that a lot of Christians don't care about what's actually true or not. No, actually, I'll scratch that. Most people in the world don't care about what's actually true. Like, people find echo chambers to be in and then just sit. Yeah. Do you ever notice that, like, and this is a bit like off point, but like, so if, like, say I'll consider myself like a progressive left person in general, right? There's some policies that I like politically that I think, like, I'm probably more conservative, but mainly in regards to like sociology, I'm very progressive. So if someone asks me a question, like, the first thing that my brain does, and I think everyone's brain does, is like, what does my group think about this subject? You don't go like, I haven't thought about that. Let me go like read about trans women in sports and then like come up with a good conclusion. You go, no, my group thinks this, so therefore that's generally where you'll first start from. And I think that's fine. I guess that's how people kind of are. That's just like group mentality, tribalism, and all that stuff. But I think that if you really want to get to the root cause of like you really want to try and understand something fully and truthfully, like the objective truth, you need to start from removing those presuppositions. You can't go into it thinking, well, let's find out a reason why the Conservative Party is racist. You have to go, well, are they racist? What does racism mean? Like, like you have to like look into all these things. And if anything, it just gives you a better understanding. Like, you may come away not understand, like still having the same perspective, but you'll understand a bit more about why someone else believes what they believe, at least.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, because I think I still now being in this community, there are times where I'm like, oh, okay, well, what would everyone else think about this issue? Yeah. So you are right. Like, we do have a bit, like we do have allegiances to our groups, right? But I am more open-minded, I think, now that I'm not a Christian. I feel like, at least for me, I can be more open to new ideas and new perspectives, which I didn't have that freedom, I felt, as a Christian. So you said that you are more like left progressive. Were you that way as a Christian, or did that kind of happen as after your deconversion?
I think I always was pretty left. I didn't I didn't have any like hard. I've never been a political person, but in general, like I like people to be, I don't know, happy. Like I was blown away. I remember watching a Michael Moore documentary, and I was blown away that is Michael Moore, but it was like he was doing some like rally, and these students jumped up and started quoting the Bible at him, and I was like, why are they quoting the Bible at him? Like they're the gun people. The gun people can't be Christians. And like, you know, like I was just blown away. I just couldn't believe that Christians would own guns. Like I was perplexed. Like, so I went for a long time thinking that like Michael Moore documentaries were like a Christian, like he was exposing the evil in the world. It's so funny that's the opposite in the States, obviously. So yeah, I guess I've always been a little left. I went through a weird stage of conspiratorial thinking a little bit. I never got CTS, which is a phrase I'm coining, conspiracy theory sickness.
Okay.
Where, you know when you get someone who's like, you know when you get someone who like has just gone too far, and then now all they can do is talk about conspiracy theories, and it's like, shut up.
Goodness,
like, it's so annoying. Like you'll say anything. You'll be like, you've been cutting up carrots, and they're like, carrots are orange. You know how people say Donald Trump is orange? Well, that's because the 4chan blah blah blah. Like,
my god.
Yeah.
We want to say hello to the new people in the chat. If you have any questions, make sure to comment so we can ask our guests today. But everybody, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for being here, everyone.
Oh, hello. Thank you, Nets. Appreciate you very much. Rude.
Well, thank you.
You're all pretty.
That's okay.
I think we're a pretty good looking bunch. So what made you decide to start a YouTube channel?
Yeah, so initially, so Deep Drinks is my first YouTube channel. So initially I had this other channel. There was this David McDonald. It's now at Post Faith. And on there, I was like trying to release like really kind of artsy, I guess, like what are they called? Like where you like a scripted videos. What are they called? Like video essays.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was trying to create like video essays, and I did like 100, and and a lot of them ended up being pretty crap by the end, but but it was just like me debating with people. But at the start, like I was spending ages. Here, this is my channel. My other channel. If you share the screen, so this is the first one. So I was doing like. So the Bible and the Quran, can you tell the difference? Something about Buddhism and grief, and all this stuff. And I was doing this is my other channel, and then the only thing that was consistent in all of this, because I was just finding it hard to get like an audience, was Deep Drinks. So I did like 4 or 5 interviews, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to put Deep Drinks on its own channel, and then I did that around the episode with Shannon Q.
Hey,
and
Shannon.
then that's when. Yeah,
he's awesome.
And then I started going live with Deep Drinks, and then that's when I've been like slowly doing an episode a week for a little while. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
Are your episodes
and then now
live?
Yeah, and so Deep Drinks is live.
Cool.
This is Deep Drinks now, and I just have conversations with people about religion, philosophy, human rights. Yeah, it's been
very cool.
It's been cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you've had some pretty incredible people on your show.
Yeah.
Who have been some of your most memorable guests, or some of the most memorable topics?
So probably the most memorable for me was I got in contact with Apostacie Preskevova, who's a Ukrainian volunteer whose father was killed by a Russian missile while standing on the balcony of his Kharkiv home. And so when we're having this interview, well, first of all, I said it's inappropriate. She's in Kharkiv, or I think she was in Kiev this time.
Okay.
And I was like, it's inappropriate to drink. Obviously, you're in a war zone. And she's like, no, we're Ukrainian, we drink. And she's like, this is what I got. Go find something similar. And I was like, okay, she's really cool. But in this interview, you can see here, she's like, oh no, there's been a siren.
Oh my god!
And she takes us to the window, and you can
Holy
hear
crap!
This siren has gone off. So remember, her father was killed like only 6 months prior to this. So she's then running to the hallway, like, which is the safest area away from the windows. And she sits down, and then she's like, so anyway, and then just keeps going on with her story. And I'm just like, are you okay? Like,
oh my,
like, and
Jeez.
she just starts talking about it, and she's like, she's just there fighting, like volunteering, helping people. We raise money to try and help her. She gets bandages, and she buys drones for the army so they can see when the Russians are attacking. And she talked about a lot of the genocide that's happening there. So that was really big.
Okay.
So that was a good episode, but the most recent fun episode was this one with Neil, Gnostic Informant. We talked about early Christianity, and we got so drunk. We had a bottle of red wine.
Oh my God.
And we just drank that in remembrance of the early Christian sects that had now died off, and it was just wild. It was so fun.
Goodness.
It was. I'm going to be having him on the channel again soon. To do a bookshelf tour. So he's going to choose some books. I'm going to choose some books, and we're going to just show off each other's books, because that's we kept doing that naturally. And of course
go ahead.
I was just going to quickly mention, of course, like, so we can
get
back to the interview.
No, this is fun.
Love it. We should have a drunk episode, Stacy. You know,
let's do. Oh yes, please tell us about your panel that's coming up. We want to know.
So I have a panel. Does the Bible condone slavery? It's coming up in March 11th. And
that's cool.
So
does everyone just say yes and then it's over?
Or... Well, here's the thing: is this is like, it bothers me so much. So how this all came about is I did an episode with Dr. Josh on slavery. And we covered most of it, and it was like, this is cool, and and stuff. But the arguments still keep floating around, like really horrible arguments from apologists that make people feel good about the fact that people were owned as property. And it was kind of pissing me off. So I said to Josh, "It's like, can you come back on and let's just do a full episode on just slavery?" And he said, "Do you want me to invite Kip?" And I was like, Deep Drinks is usually one-on-one. I was like, and then I was like, I don't do multiple interviews. And then I was like, actually, and I was like, you know what? Maybe we should do the panels, because we've been talking about doing panels. And then I said, yeah, invite Kip. Do you know anyone else? And he's like, yeah. And then he got this dream team essentially together, because he was in a group.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So all of a sudden I've got like a professor of Near Eastern languages and literature, Dr. Matthew Monga, an Assyriologist, Dr. Josh, Kip Davis, a Dead Sea Scrolls scholar, Jennifer Bird, New Testament and Early Christianity, and Dr. Daniel McClellan, sorry.
That's awesome.
Theology and religion PhD. And it was just wild that I got this whole group. But then I was like, okay, well, if we got this group on here, let's make this systematic. So we got Josh talking about the Hebrew Bible. We got Jennifer talking about the New Testament, Second Temple Judaism with Dr. Kip and Daniel. And then we're going to go through, Matthew, sorry. And we're going to go through the apologist claims one by one. I have, with a friend of mine on Discord server, on Deep Drinks Discord, have spent so much time. We've come up with 30-something pages of notes on apologists.
Wow.
So quotes from apologists, and we've categorized the quotes into different categories. So it's like this panel will be the go-to resource to push back against the bullshit slavery apologetics, and there'll be a downloadable PDF that will have
that's awesome.
Wow.
If someone says to you this is the section of the video, and these are all the claims that other apologists have made that are similar. And here's a reading list of it's going to be. This is my attempt to shut the conversation down. So apologists at least need to go either change their position or rethink a different way around it, because at the moment it's just the same arguments are floating around, which is essentially like, it was nice slavery. It was like they the master rubbed your belly and fed you little treats before you went to bed. William Lane Craig said it's better than what we have today. He actually said that. I couldn't believe it.
This is great, man. That's a lot of time and effort and energy that you're putting into that. That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
It's very academic. I love it.
We just had Dr. Kip and Dr. Joshua Bowen and Derek Lambert on 2 weeks ago with Does the Bible Condone Slavery? So I think it's a really popular discussion and important discussion to be had, because I just recently heard a video, and I talked about this in our panel, of John MacArthur defending slavery, even still, like biblical slavery. And it's, I think it needs to be shut down. So
it's the same people who want us to believe that these stories aren't fictional, that they're real.
Absolutely.
really the Amalekites were killed, and the infants were torn away from their mothers, and their throats were slit. Like that's what these people want us to believe, and then in the next breath tell us that it's okay. Like,
there's one that says keep the little ones for yourself. I think that's Numbers
the little
31.
girls.
The little
Numbers
girls?
31:17. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take the little virgin girls for yourself.
Yeah. What do you think that means, huh?
Well, that didn't mean like forced marriage and rape or anything. That actually meant like keep them for yourself and like, brush their hair, give them a career. And, like it's so ridiculous.
Yep. Exactly.
Like John McCrae, I got some shorts. So what I've done is so funny. I love it. I don't think anyone else finds it as funny as me. But if you go on Twitter,
I
shorts.
saw some of your shorts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've created shorts. I've taken an apologist claim. So John McCrae says, well, then there were the slaves who were like war criminals. We can just think of them as the bad guys for now. What? And then it like does like a record scratch. And then it's like, and I had the Skeptic, my friend, he has a channel, The Skeptic, and he said he does voiceover work, and he's like, is John forgetting to mention that some of these bad guys were little girls? Find out March 11th.
Yeah. I love him. John, right? He's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a great
very funny.
too. Yeah. And his voice is perfect.
Amazing.
the floating circle.
Yes. Yeah. He's great. So
we have a question.
Skeptic Haven.
So has there been anyone that you have looked up to during your deconversion that you now have got to talk to on your show? And what was that like for you?
Yeah. I've said this before. There's a lot. Part of the reason I started my show was to I'm just trying to actually find it. But part of the reason I started my show was because I wanted to get involved in the conversations that I was watching all the time. Like it was like I had things to say. And I've been on Godless Engineer's channel. I don't remember specifically what I watched of his that really impacted me, but I was subscribed. So he was one of the people that I subscribed to back when I was deconstructing. I'm just looking through my videos now. Dr. Joshua Bowen, very late in the game, like I'd already been, but he was like a nice breath of fresh air that came in like a really reasonable, non-screamy version. Because I love, I love Matt Dillahunty. Matt Dillahunty was probably the most impactful person. I really enjoyed his content when I was in what I call my angry atheist days, where I just wanted to see like atheists dunking on Christians. Yeah. And, I still enjoy that. But I also probably prefer now a more good faith approach. I wouldn't. That sounds bad because they're saying Matt's not good faith. A more calm down conversation,
mellow.
Yeah, when no one can hang up.
Less contentious, a little less contentious. Yeah.
And Matt, I've been talking to Matt about coming on the channel. It'd be fantastic. Matt's been probably the biggest influence on me, though. I think I'm just trying to look through. Holy Kool-Aid. I can't believe
mentioned. Yeah, he's great.
He is his content.
Great. I got to interview him too. He's awesome.
Yeah. Do you find it like, because for me, we just had Seth Andrews on in January.
And Seth Andrews. Yeah, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Have you had him on?
Yeah, and he sent me 2 of his books. He signed them for me, and I was just like, yeah, I know.
I got to meet him in person. Don't be jealous.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So I met him in Atlanta last year.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, very nice guy.
I met him screen to screen, but he was someone who was very impactful to me, and so when I got to talk to him on here, I was just like, I can't believe this is happening.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, you're not going to be all like fanning, but it is really cool to come full circle. And
we have a question here from our friend. What's up, Leo? You had IP. Who's IP?
Inspiring Philosophy.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk
Michael Jones.
The problem people a while ago. Were you planning on having an atheist on to discuss it? It's a very, very powerful argument against classical theism.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So it's really interesting. People should go back and watch that episode. I don't want to mischaracterize what Inspiring Philosophy said, but I essentially gave the argument. Let's say that let's say there's a room, right? And there's 2 buttons. There's one's like kill a kitten, and another one's like the other button kills a kitten. One button like gives someone $1,000. Well, there's like a bad decision there and a good decision there, right? Like there's 2 buttons. There are only 2 choices. Now, let's say you're God and you can create that room, or you can create a room where there's 2 buttons. One button is give $500 to charity, and the other one is give $1,000 to charity. They're both good options. One is just more good than the other. And I pointed out that like God could have created a universe where no little children get raped by pedophiles, where murder wasn't a thing. Like these are things that like he could have created anything, and it wouldn't have been conflicted against free will. Like I don't think I don't think I have free will, but if I did think I had free will, I'm a bit of a determinist. That's a whole other thing. But let's say I pretend I had free will. I don't think I have less free will because I can't fly, because I don't have the ability to just jump up and fly like Superman. I'm still constricted to like certain rules. Well, those rules could have just been that the only decisions we have are good decisions. And he said to me, this Michael Jones, he said, he said, would you want to live in that world? And I said, yeah, I would. And he goes, it sounds like a boring world. And I said, yeah, well, but I said, would you want to live in a world where, you got the world where everything is good, but no little girl's getting raped, but you don't have that virtue ethics that you're looking for, or the world where someone's getting raped and then, but you can you can become virtuous through fighting against evil. And he chose the latter. And I was shocked, and I'm glad that he bit the bullet on that. But it shocked me a little bit. And I want to be clear that I want people to go watch the video, because I'm probably misremembering it, or maybe he said something different. But to me, Michael takes the perspective that of virtue ethics, that is that we should that what is morally correct is something that builds virtue, I guess. I think is a very bad way of explaining it, where I was taking the perspective that reducing harm, a utilitarian perspective, reducing harm for sentient creatures was something that we should do.
Yes.
And so that's where we're having the disconnect. And I think that, like if you're a utilitarian, if you think that it's like immoral to cause unnecessary harm to something, then I don't know. Then I don't know how you can be like I don't know how you square the problem of evil. And so to answer the question, yes, I should have an atheist philosopher on who can actually explain that better in more detail, because I'm not even a baby philosopher. I don't even read philosophy. I just
same
hear the arguments. Yeah,
I'm just an asshole on the internet. That's
yeah.
What's up, atheist Chico, my friend?
Okay,
we got another question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, you read it. I don't.
Sure. So if something is good only in virtue of being a response to some evil, then it will be entailed that a world where this auxiliary good doesn't occur because the evil is a better world. So
I'm gonna need to go away and think about. I didn't fully like that. That is like philosophy language almost, where I need to like break it down. That was a great comment. I will think about that. But yeah.
Thank you.
My brain's not that good to just.
You just woke up, right? It's morning time where he is.
Yeah.
So.
You're in the freaking future. How is it over there?
Yeah.
It's all right.
Has the world changed?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? Anybody want to ask a question to David?
Yeah. Well, if there is any more, I have one or two more, just because I know we're running out of time. But do you have any plans of coming over to North America to visit any of your friends?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I absolutely do. I told Amy about this, my wife. I was like, oh yeah, I might be going to America. And she looks at me like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm taking this YouTube thing serious. I need to go do some like in-person interviews, do some documentaries. Yeah. So that's one of the things on the list. I didn't get to mention it to Derek before I jumped on here. We were on a phone call together. But I want to be able to travel to the States and produce content. My background is in video editing. I know I can produce
nice
good. Yeah, I know I can produce good content, and I think that the more support that we can get over in Deep Drinks financially and subscribers will mean that I can justify doing that. So yes, it's on the cards. I don't know when it'll happen, but I definitely want to get over there.
Perfect.
Well, I live in the United States, and I can tell you that it's overrated. So just
I live in Canada, so
yeah, must be nice.
Canada.
You and your free healthcare and your freedom, you know, whatever. Stacy.
Sorry,
whereabouts in Canada are you? And
I'm close to Vancouver.
Okay.
BC. I'm in like the West Coast.
Okay, yeah. I'll have to Google what
I saw photos and it's like,
it's beautiful.
You know, like a screensaver when you turn on the computer, the lake and the little birds
I'm
shit.
In the Okanagan. So if you're gonna go and you're gonna visit like Dr. Kip, I'm not far from him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah. So
there's if you hang on, let me just share. I just want to show off where I live at the moment.
Okay. Yes.
If you share my screen, this is where I live. So this is Noosa. So this is like the Sunshine Coast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Look at the water.
I know.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's nice. Yeah.
Looks like the Caribbean coast almost a little bit.
I have family in Australia, so
whereabouts?
They're in New South Wales, just north of Sydney.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah. So like up near Coffs Harbour kind of area. You probably don't want to say, but yeah, cool.
I don't know the exact town, but I can't remember. Cool. I have visited them, but
we had a question that went away. Let's ask you that one really quick.
I know
what are you passionate about? Your outlook, promoting critical thinking, anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm very passionate about learning, about different religions, perspectives in the world, belief systems. But I'm also passionate about. I'm getting more passionate about history, but mainly, nail on the head, critical thinking, promoting critical thinking, but also like being able to evaluate my own beliefs and share the experience of. Like, I love internet blood sports. I love getting onto a panel and screaming at someone, and being aggressive. But I also like to promote on deep drinks, which is mainly a lot more. I guess more. I try to meet people where they're at. So I mean, I know that like there'll come a day where I probably will get cancelled, because I will have. I'll have conversations with almost anyone, even people that I find morally abhorrent.
That's cool.
That's important. As long as I think I can challenge their arguments. Like, I'm not going to bring on like a Holocaust denier or anything, because I don't have enough information to, and I probably wouldn't do that on deep drinks anyway, because but I would have a conversation with a Holocaust denier if I knew how to rebut their arguments. But these people are insane in their like the mental gymnastics they do, and it would look really bad. So I try to have conversations with all sorts.
Awesome.
And then the last question was, what would you say to a younger version of yourself or others who are questioning the religion to jumpstart their journey?
I'll take this from Thomas Westbrook, Holy Kool-Aid. Truth withstands scrutiny. So
nice.
Whatever you do, like if you believe in God and you need to think about this rationally. So if you believe in God and you believe God is the creator of the universe, and that you can make observations of this universe, not protecting your faith and making honest observations of that universe and following the evidence where it leads without presupposing a belief, you will end at God. You will find God at the end of that if God is real, right? You shouldn't need to use faith to protect that. Faith can lead me to Yahweh and someone else to Allah or Krishna or Zeus. It demonstrates that faith is not a reliable pathway to truth. And if God's given us a brain, we can use that brain to evaluate those beliefs. And it might be the case. It might be the case that I find evidence one day, and then I'm a Christian again or something. But I don't know. I doubt it. But I've done a lot of looking. But always seek out the truth. Follow the evidence where it leads.
What Matthew Lahonti says about faith, that faith is the excuse that people use when they don't have any evidence.
Yeah,
it's just true. It's unreliable. You can take anything on faith. Literally.
Yeah.
Yes. Well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ooh. Yeah.
So where can people find you?
So youtube.com/@deepdrinks. If you guys go over there and subscribe,
everyone subscribe.
I've been doing. Actually, I forgot about this. I've been doing this silly thing. So on MythVision, people come over, and when they comment, if they leave a wizard emoji, I know it's from MythVision. And if they come from Gnostic Informant, they have a wand emoji. And if they come from Godless Engineer, they have a whale and a whale dick emoji, a whale and a eggplant emoji.
What if it's an eggplant?
Yeah, whale eggplant emoji. Yeah. So what I have to ask is if someone does come over from here and subscribe and comments, I'll give them a special favoritism on reading their comments and stuff.
Ooh.
So what is the secular soapbox emoji? That's the question.
Oh, is there a box emoji?
It's a bar of soap and a box.
Oh, a soap. I don't know. We have to find one. Okay.
Soap. Is it? Let's find one before we leave.
Find one. Okay, I'm gonna just quickly look and see.
God.
Is there a? We have to look. Wes, help us. Who is helping us? Oh, there's a little soap. Is it a
little bar of soap? That's hilarious.
How about a soap?
Yeah, bar of soap emoji. That's great.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on. I'm gonna.
It's just a box.
Oh, Wes, put a box.
A box.
Soap or a box?
That's like a shipping. That's like an Amazon box.
I don't know which one, guys.
Oh God.
I think I spammed it so much that I just got like muted.
I think Deep Drinks is voting for the soap.
I like the soap.
I like the soap. It's cute and it's my favorite color.
Yeah. If you come over, and I'll try and give you special favoritism. I'm not going to tell anyone about like everyone's like, what's with the soap? We're not mentioning it. We're gonna ignore the question. Yeah. So come over, guys, and that's where people can find me. YouTube.com/deepdrinks, and you'll probably find me on Twitter arguing with someone as well. But mainly, just go to the YouTube channel, subscribe.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, David. It's been
thanks for having me on.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're freaking awesome. And I want to say thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Thank you, Rion, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Michael Weissman, Kathy Cotton, Cindy Plaza, Sunny Shell, Aaron Coalson, and Phil Calderone.
Yes. And we also just want to remind everyone, don't forget to watch our other shows here on Skeptic Haven, The Sunny Spot, The Bible Says What, The Global Atheists, and Women Atheists Unload. We are also soon going to be launching a call-in show on Sundays called Let's Talk, and I'm rather excited about that. So be ready to tune in for that show starting March 26th. So
if you ever need like a co-host for that to jump in on a special episode, I would love to do that.
Thank you.
I'd love to go into a call-in show.
Okay.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be
putting
cool?
my resume out there.
I've never done anything like that.
I've never done one. So yes, we will definitely be contacting you for that. And maybe we can talk about promoting it on your show too. And
of course.
Put a little soap in the chat. And
for sure. 100%.
Awesome. Well, you've been awesome and I've enjoyed this so much. So thank you again. And thank you for everyone in the chat and for coming over from Deep Drinks and
all the soapy peeps over there.
Yes. Well,
and also our links, Stacy's and mine, are in the description too. We have our own little thingies. You're just gonna have to click on the link.
Yes. Follow us on all the places. And we will see you guys here next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Adios.
Bye.